Oh dear.
Good
For
morning,
everybody who's just
good
joining
afternoon,
us, Alex told
and good day to all.
super inappropriate joke.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that one did not make the cut. I'm sorry. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download. This week on the Digital Download, we're going to have a special guest, Global Sales Management and Transformation Leader, Dr. Grant Van Albrick, author of Transforming Sales Management and the Bottom-Up Change Management Model, Scared, So What? He's going to share with us his insights on the emotional impact of change and why it's important to critically reflect and focus on actions before making a decision and responding to it. But before we get into that, let's go around the horn with some introductions. Adam, would you kick us off, please?
I'd be delighted to. Hello, everybody. I'm Adam Gray. I'm co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm very excited about this afternoon's stream.
Excellent. Tracy.
Good morning, all. Tracy Borison from TLB Coaching and Events, where we care about optimizing sales and marketing efforts and people. And I am proud, because I get to say it first today, proud DLA Ignite partner.
Excellent. Thank you. Jensen.
Hi, all. Jensen Abbott from Supero, social influence and interactions coach, and also a proud and happy DLA associate and partner.
Excellent. Thank you. Alex.
Good afternoon, all. Alex Abbott, founder of Supero. We're a B2B sales consultancy focused on social selling and value selling. I am an ecstatic DLA partner. See what I did there?
Yes. Excellent. Thank you. Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm getting over the fact that this week I met Adam face to face. First time in, what was it, 2 years?
Certainly 18 months. Yeah.
18 months.
Amazing. Even though we speak every day by video call.
And yesterday we met. We had a hug. And it was the first time we'd seen each other face to face for 18 months.
I'm getting quite emotional now just thinking about it.
And we had a lot of fun as well.
We did. Fantastic day. Fantastic day.
And myself, I'm Rob Durant, founder of Flywheel Results. We help startups scale. And I, too, am an adequate DLA Ignite partner. So today, on the Digital Download, we're going to talk about transforming sales management. We're going to talk about things like what support tools are available when you're confronted with change. How can sales leaders teach their team to embrace change management? And how is change, like a corporate rollout or an organizational restructuring, similar to changing customer expectations or the rejection of sales opportunities? We're going to have Dr. Grant Van Albrick joining us to discuss this. And with that, I will bring him on so he can introduce himself. Grant, welcome.
Hi, Grant.
Hi, everyone. Wow. This is an amazing day to sit in the backstage and listen to you all. I can tell you that I am significantly cracked up. This is hilarious. What have I been missing? Such an incredible team. And yes, I too am a champion of DLA Ignite and Supero and Flywheel. So there, did I say it correctly? Am I all here?
Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you guys.
Dr. Grant, would you please give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, wow. Brief introduction. How much time do you have?
All the time you want. We have an hour to kill. We've got to kill the whole hour.
There you go. Well, I am Dr. Grant, as people would say, which is kind of funny to say. I'm still wrapping around that because actually Tuesday of next week, I actually will be walking at Middlesex University to grab my diploma, even though I have that. So it's still relatively new, but so is the professionalization of the sales field, if you think about it. So I'm the first to graduate with a master's in science in sales transformation within my industry here in the cruise and hospitality sector from Middlesex University, and also then to move on to do a doctorate in sales transformation. I work for Royal Caribbean Cruises. I've been with them for over 15 years, and I lead sales transformation and the international global sales teams in how we should be selling based according to sales science and psychology and the way that our sales customers want to be sold to. On top of that, I'm the founder of Scared So What Limited and Community Interest Company, which provides the app and the book for everybody to utilize. And what we're trying to do is to get this methodology out, which is, thank you so much for sharing it there, Scared So What. It's the new app. It is the world's first app for managing personal change. And how do you learn about what is personal change? And then how do you manage it for yourself in real time? So we put that in the palm of your hand after we've tested it for over 6 years across the world, thousands of people learning that they can learn how to manage personal change for themselves, especially within the sales arena. But it has quickly expanded to our B2B customers, B2C customers, and they've expanded it to their families. We've had children as young as 14 using the app themselves to learn how to manage change for themselves. So it's a good journey. I come from cruise industry, 15 years sailing on board our ships around the world in different positions and roles. And yeah, so it's great to be here with you all today and try to share this new methodology for sales and for everyone, realistically.
Excellent. Welcome. Well, thank you for that. And we will put that QR code up again at the end. That leads people to your app, correct? And that
Yes,
app is
correct.
free?
That app is free for all individuals to use? Yes, absolutely. If you're in an organization, if you can buy your employees a cup of coffee, well, guess what? It's less than that. So if you can help to contribute on the journey, then we're in a good space.
So starting with that app, let's kick it off with that first question. When we talk about change and change management, what support tools are available when you're confronted with change? Or is even that the right question to start with? Is there maybe a better question that we should start when we're thinking about change?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a better question, and we need to go back to the roots of what is personal change. This started on my journey in 2018 when I moved over to London from Miami. And my leadership said, Grant, you need to create the first sales manual for our company. We've been operating 80,000 employees for over 50 years, but the true art of selling just doesn't exist. How do we do that? And so I went extensively throughout the company to find out, what do we teach our people? And how do we teach them through key account management, retail sales management, sales enablement, sales support, all these structures? And there wasn't anything. There was thousands of documents on products which made sense for our ships, right? This is our ship, this is the destination, this is the staterooms, all the exciting things on board the ships. But when you get into it, how do you teach people how to sell? That wasn't there. It just didn't exist. So my supervisor knew of this new master's program here in England under the Consalia Sales Business School in Middlesex University. And he said, Grant, I hate to say this, but in your 40s, you're going to have to go back to university. And you're going to have to start over. And would you do that? And I said, yes, I'd be happy to do it. So in the master's program, module 4 is about leading sales transformation. And as a sales leader, we were required to learn all of the global organizational change models and structures meant to be to apply on our people. And that's where I had a problem. So as the only American in the crowd with, and this, mind you, the cohort is with senior vice presidents, vice presidents from all over the world. And here, little Yankee American raises his hand and says, I don't think this is appropriate. And my professor said, what do you mean? And I said, well, people can accept change, right? Do we agree with that? And I think all of you would agree we can accept change. But can people reject change? Yes, we can reject change. Great. So we all agreed on that. But these models that you're expecting me to use within my business practice, they're all prescriptive and say that people will magically accept. Where's the model to help the individual? And they said, well, some of these apply to that. And I said, but again, what happens when they reject change? It was silence. They said, well, that model doesn't really exist. I said, spot on. So what do I do now? You're teaching me, Masters of Science, leading sales transformation. What am I supposed to do for my sales force around the world to help them embrace change? And they said, maybe you need to create the model. So that's what I did. And so in the research, it starts, to your point, it starts out, what is personal change? And you think to yourselves, each one of us, have you ever been taught how to manage personal change for yourself? No? Tim?
No.
Alex? Tracy? Adam? Rob?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So in your personal life, whenever you went to your mom, dad, brother, sister, a supervisor, a teacher, or anybody, or maybe even your boss today, it doesn't matter what point in your life, we all experience change. But when you had a change situation and you went to somebody, say I went to you, Tim, this is happening and I don't know what to do. The best you could give me is, oh, you'll be fine, Grant.
I was going to say, just get on with it, Grant.
Yeah, just get on with it. I hear that a lot over here in the UK. Just get on with it. And I love it. It's brilliant. But my question is, does that make you feel good? Is that any advice? Is that anything to help you manage that change? And the answer is no. Exactly. It's not. Your body and your mind is saying something is wrong. I need help. We need a way to get through this. It doesn't matter if it's a positive change, like you're getting a new job, getting a promotion, buying a house or a car, getting married. Think about that, guys. You know, the groom standing up there, you're stressed, but it's supposed to be the best day of your life. So it doesn't matter if it's a positive change or a negative change. Your body goes through the same situation. And the best that people can do is offer us a platitude and just say, hey, just get on with it or you'll be okay. But that doesn't help you. So there was no model. And so what I wanted to do was identify what is personal change. And it is any change that happens to you, for you, with you, or about you. It's not about the organization. Organizational change models don't apply at this moment. It's about you. And so that's where the scared so what methodology came. And scared focuses on you and your feelings so that you can slow down and you can critically assess and reflect on what's happening so that you can make an informed decision rather than an assumption. Because we all know what happens when you make an assumption, right? You usually get it wrong. But that's the process. We want to get through scared, make an informed decision. But then again, where all of the organizational models fall flat, so what? So what does it mean? Or so what can I do about it? You know, and we've had many of my sales teams say that as well too. You give a direction, you tell them what they're supposed to do, and they're like, well, I don't understand. So what should I do? And that's where you create your own so what. What's your strategy? What options could you include? Do you have a way forward? What actions could you take? And can you take ownership? So it's a methodological process. And right now we've put it into an app for you to actually learn what is personal change. You can take a quiz and see in real time your results, where there's an expert telling you what the results mean. And you can then make an informed decision and move on to build your own so what, so that you're making change happen in the way you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I have a question. So I guess the question is two questions, really. So the first of them is, you know, we work in the B2B space and we help organizations go through organizational change around how they have conversations from the individuals to their target markets. And I guess the part of the change so what thing, you know, you can make an informed decision, but the informed decision ultimately is that the change is going to happen. You're going to be part of it or you're not, which may mean that you stay in the business or you don't. And
Exactly.
that's out of our remit, because that's between the business and the individuals that work within the business.
Yeah.
But the individuals, we're asking them to adopt a different behavior. And you talk about scared.
Mm-hmm.
We see that with every single person that we train. They are scared because we're asking them to do things that they've not done before. We're asking them to talk about themselves and feelings rather than their job and facts.
Yeah.
And they see this as a huge risk. So can we use this methodology to help them through the process of embracing the new behaviors that they're going to need to adopt Not because we tell them to, but because that's what's needed in the modern world.
Absolutely. And Adam, I'm so glad you said that. And thank you for that, because it's spot on. So again, you think of, let's just go back for a second. Today in your leadership practice, how many of you supervise employees or supervise teams or supervise B2B customers? Yeah. Great. Excellent. Have you ever implemented a change to your teams and then asked them, do you accept this change, Alex? Tim, are you on board with this change? Tracy, can you support this change? Rob, will you be okay with this? And can you help us make this change go forward? Typically, we don't ask those questions.
It's the rule of the ballpark.
Exactly. As
the person who owns the ballpark makes the rules.
Exactly. So if I'm functioning, this is where you get into leadership styles as well, too. If I'm a transactional leader, I'm going to tell you what the change is, and you are going to do it. Tracy, your role is this. Rob, your role is this. Tim, you'll do this. And Jensen, you'll do everything else to make sure everybody's involved. Right? Ready? Go. There, I'm a leader. I led. We're all done, and I can pat myself on the back. It's going to go wonderful. Yeah, boss, I got that covered. I'm leading. Good for you. But what happens is you do not know what the employees are saying behind your back or internally because you haven't involved them. And this is where organizational change falls flat. And I know this because I've spoken to some of the great leaders who's created these great models around the world, and they have purpose. Cotter's model, Connor's models as well too, the Sara curve, all of them have relevancy and purpose. It's the piece that's been missing is the individual. And that's where scared so what comes into play. So what you want to do as a leader is say, right, I'm getting ready to implement a change. Here is the change. This is what it is. But before we go there, I want you to be able to process it and think about it yourself. So now as a leader, I can say, are you surprised about the change? Could you champion this, or are you conflicted by it? What actions do you need to support? What information do you need? And what could we do to help you with the change? Are you receptive or are you rejective toward the change? Could you explore any other options? And what decision have you made? It has to be about the individual who's expected to execute the change on our behalf. Does that make sense?
I've got another question.
Yeah.
So when you were speaking then, I had a bit of an aha moment.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I'm leading an organization. There are thousands of people in the organization. What I can't afford to do is to ask all of the individuals within the organization, are you on board with this change or you're not on board with this change? They're just going to get on and do it. But of course, they're not going to get on and do it. So although I haven't got the time to ask all of the individuals, if I don't ask all of the individuals, I forge ahead with the change and nothing happens because they don't embrace it. So actually, I do need to thought. So my question was this, and typically one of the big challenges that we run up against when we're working with individuals is this. I lay out for you what the change program looks like and what the expectation is of you in order to be successful in this new world and the behaviors you need to adopt. And I say, so, Dr. Grant, are you up for this? And you say, yes, I am. And it turns out that you're not. Even though you said you are, even though you think maybe that you are, it turns out that you're not up for it, because when you get right down to it, it's a lot more difficult than you thought it was going to be. So how do we embrace that? Or is it you as a leader need to change your approach? Because when you go, Dr. Grant, are you up for it? You're my supervisor and you've just put me on the spot. Do I really have an option or an opportunity there? You've just given the direction. You're up for it. I may not see that I have a choice at that moment. Or are you as a leader able to become a transformational leader and change your way to say, right, Grant, I realize I've just thrown a big change at you. You're going to need some time to think about this. I want you to go back and reflect. Maybe you take the scared quiz and you see exactly where you are. And then we come back, and as a transformational leader, I'm going to support you to ensure that you are on board. Now I'm being inclusive. Now I'm giving you the opportunity to think and reflect. And then you come back to me and say, I've thought about this. I didn't just assume and make an assumption or make a knee-jerk reaction. I've actually thought this through. And you know what? I think we can be successful if we do A, B, C, and D. Or I think there's a danger here. Again, as leaders,
This is where we all need to change, and we need to learn how to lead true proper change. It's two spectrums, and what we've only been doing is the one spectrum, leading from the organizational change piece, putting that on top of the organization, saying this is what has to happen to make it be successful. And that's through no fault of any of our own. We've never been taught how to manage personal change or that it was relevant. But now that you're awoken to this, and now that you understand that if you want organizational change to be successful, you've got to include the people who are supposed to carry it out. So then what would you do? You employ scared so what here first. Doesn't take much time at all. You could do, if you're a CEO, you could do it in the organization. Right, everybody take the quiz, boom. Now, managers, supervisors, start facilitating the conversations. Do we have everybody on board? Take 2 to 3 days to make sure that we've got it. Great. Who's on board? Who's not? Now we move forward. Now you bring the organizational change model and put that into play, but only when you've included people. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you so if a company wants to use your methodology, could they brand it as their own then? So
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So
Okay.
we
So
have a
Brian,
comment
what do you-
here. I want to make sure that we address it. Mark McDermott says, sorry, leaders need to enact due process, not just go reflect on what's already been decided. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I
had my aha moment about exactly that. Which is the fact that you can decide what you're going to do. Right, I've decided that we as a team are all walking this way, and I start walking, and you guys all walk in the other direction, and then I wonder why no one's following me.
Well, and I would put that on you and say, are you leading transactionally because I've decided to walk this way, or are you leading transformationally and you're bringing your team along the journey?
Yeah,
it's hard and it's a different process, and I appreciate that comment. It's absolutely true. As CEOs and leaders and senior vice presidents, whatever your role in leading, you're supposed to lead a company or an organization towards a direction. Yes, that's true. But it's also part of your responsibility to develop the team that you're taking on the journey, and to make sure that you're investing in the talent that you've spent so much money and time to bring on board. So therefore, take the minute extra step to include those individuals. You can still have, like, for example, I can say, as I'm running this corporation and running a sales division, we need to be going this direction. That's fantastic. It's how you go that direction. Do you take the first few moments and include the people and their thoughts and feelings so that you can be sure to ensure everybody's on board? Or do you just blindly go forward? That's what we've done in the past. And there's a reason why McKinsey's studies, Harvard Business Review studies, Oxford Business Review studies, countless say that 30% of change management in organizations is successful. The other 70% is in somewhere a mix of different outcomes. And that's because when you go back to these studies and the researchers and the leaders of organizational change, and you ask them, why does organizational change fail so often? And they will tell you every time, it's because you didn't include the individual. And so we think on that. We can give directions, we can give leaderships and think that we're leading. But to your point, if an employee comes back and says, well, I'm rejecting this change, wouldn't you want to know that as a supervisor or a leader? And wouldn't you want to try to take the opportunity to bring them on board? Maybe it's as simple as they don't understand the message. Maybe it's as simple as they don't see themselves within the change process. And in fostering that conversation and fostering that discussion and getting them the information they need, you could turn them on board. But to your point, Adam, we do not accept every single change that comes to us. And that's okay. What the goal of this is to teach people how to reflect on personal change so that they can make the right decision for them. And if the decision comes that, you know what, I'm no longer aligning, my values don't align, my identity doesn't align with the direction the company's going, excellent. As a supervisor, how do I help you? Do you need to go into another role? Do you need to go somewhere else? Because my job is to protect the company and you, because you're a part of it. But if you're choosing not to be a part of it, then no skin, no loss. How do I help you? How do I help you get where you want to be? Life's too short.
So how do we go from having people take that scared quiz to applying what they've done versus just having them take it and really just pandering to them. Oh, we
Yeah.
think we care about you, but we're not going to even read the results.
Yeah. So that's where you go to the so what. So there's two sides of it. And this is really interesting in the research we did around the world. We had just in one scenario, we had over 1,180 B2B travel agents participating in a study. And we asked them, we said, what do you think of the two elements scared, which is your feelings, and so what, which is the actions to hold you accountable and execute the change in the way you want? Which do you think is viable or more viable? And about 50% of them said, it was right down the board. 50% said, I want to focus on the feeling side of it. I think this will help me to be able to add clarity and make an informed decision. That's important to me. The other half said, I don't care about my feelings. I just want to get on with how to do it. I want to build the plan. I want to make sure things succeed. That's where I want to go. But we said, okay, so out of that, is one more valuable than the other? 98% came back and said, you must do both. Even though I lean towards one side or the other, you must do both. If we're learning about what is personal change and we're starting to include the individual so that the process can work and be more successful, we need to embrace your feelings. And then to your point, how do you enforce it so it's not fluff? You go on to the so what plan. And as a supervisor, show me, what is your so what plan as you've built it out in your app? Okay, this is my strategy. These are my options. These are my opportunities. This is my way forward. Here's how I'm going to take actions to make sure the change happens. And finally, the T, which is taking ownership. These are the milestones that I will achieve so that I can make sure the change happens the way we all want. And by doing that, what you're doing is you're facilitating the coaching process, right? So we all know transactional leadership. I point and I tell you what to do. Well, guess what? Yeah, you get 50% of me, you get 100% of me. And when you lead that way and it doesn't work, I can say, well, Tracy, you told me what to do. I did what you said and it didn't work. If you utilize true proper coaching, which is what this model does, it allows for self-coaching and also a supervisor to chime in. It transfers ownership. And then the employee is actually making their own plan. And when they make their own plan, they're more susceptible to actually ensure it's successful. That's what you want to do. Now, eventually you want to get away from the app. You don't need to use this from every single thing, but once it becomes a skill set, then you're perfect. When change happens to you, you stop yourself, right? Am I scared? Am I surprised? What am I thinking? Can I make an informed decision? Yes, I can. Move forward. What's my plan? Now you're teaching people how to become informative, decision, critical, reflective thinkers versus just, oh, well, Tim, I don't know what to do. You tell me what to do. Sure, I'll do what you said. Does that make
Tracy,
sense?
you had a question?
Yeah. Tracy.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a question. So, because to me, this is feeling like almost a like cultural transformation for some organizations. They're going to say, my change management hasn't been productive, so I'm going to try something new. This, I love everything about this, by the way. But I mean, in my experience, I have not, while I've had like some people I would consider good managers, like this skill set is still so new, both from the leadership perspective and from the receiving employee perspective.
Yeah.
So I like to call it corporate trauma on a employee's perspective of like, do I even tell the truth on this survey that now I'm being told to do if my experience of the organization is that it's transactional, right? Like,
yeah.
So how does what are the important things in the feel of how this happens, going back to the emotions versus like, it seems easy to just like get an app, do the things, right? That's a very like, so what piece of it? How do we make sure that the feelings part of it, maybe that the feelings part of it is agreed to before we decide to switch our model?
Yeah, well, and you know, it's spot on. When I first created this model in the master's, my master's program was a work-based study. So here at Middlesex, what you do is you go each quarter, you learn, and then you go back into your workplace, and that's your research pit. So you're actively building and learning within your organization, making real-world change. So we built this within Royal Caribbean International pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic happened. And it was so shocking. We were over here in Europe, and our Spanish office, our EMEA teams, we had to close down the Spain office. And as you know, there's a consultation that happens. And so there's a slow process, right, until that happens. Human Resources said, Grant, you've built this model in your master's. Can you now start teaching it to everybody? Because people are literally freaking out. They don't know what to do. And we expect everyone's going to completely check out and leave. So we need them to do their work until we do close down and leave. But there's a feelings part that we've got to manage somehow. We don't know how to do that. So I brought it out, and we started teaching and holding workshops with all of the individuals. And a miraculous thing started to happen. People actually were doing their jobs. So in that situation, hundreds of people were losing their jobs, and we thought they're just going to check out. But once we taught them how to think about their feelings, they then made their own informed decision and came back to us. They started showing up to supervisors, to our VPs, to our directors, to HR going, here's my so what plan. I need this from you. I need to move forward. I need this to make sure that I'm okay. And now I'm going to go back and do my job. It was shocking how simple it was to give the people that forward. And then to your question, how do you provide the space for people to be real? People are dying to let their voice be heard in some way, shape, or form. And that's a bigger scientific discussion. If you look at Dr. Julian Birkinshaw's work of where we are living today in the democracy, people have two phones taking pictures of their food, of their social media everywhere where they live. We are living in an emotive environment to where people want to be heard. They want to be liked. They want to be seen, etc. So it is a generational gap. It's happening more so with the younger generation. People my age and a little bit older are a little hesitant to be all this touchy-feely, etc. But we're smart enough to recognize that we have to hit people at where they are today. So in doing this across our organization and with our B2B customers, our travel agents here at Royal Caribbean, we found that once you gave people a platform and a methodology to speak constructively about their feelings, it was relatively simple. And then you knew the process as supervisors and leaders to say, right, they're following the model. So they're not going away, assuming, making ill-gotten decisions. They're actually clearly reflecting right in front of me. This is brilliant. I can lead with this because now I can lead with real facts and real information versus, to your point, Adam, Grant, go do it. You're not on board. Ooh, surprise. I know you're on board right here with me.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just ask one more follow-up question before Alex? But do you think that was successful for Royal Caribbean? Because Royal Caribbean from the start was like the problem we need to solve is that we need to get the emotions out of the employees and deal with that. Because I think a lot of times when it comes to apps and things like that, people are like, okay, this is an easy way to fix a problem. But if you don't have that, we're using this because we want to learn the emotions of the employees related to this change. If you act like you can collect all that information, but if at the top level you don't care, then I just see that as a potential break point. And if there's a way to kind of, I don't know, is there like a difference you've seen in like organizations who are open to thinking, talking this way, embracing emotions versus ones that are just like, they're almost built to be transactional? And in that case, what do we do?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's interesting. I don't think it was a case at Royal because Royal didn't know what I was eventually going to build, right? And none of us knew the global pandemic was going to happen. But in our industry, we had 62 plus ships, a multi-billion-dollar industry that went to zero revenue in one day, completely shut down for 2 years, not an instance of a penny. So it was all about emotions then. And the same thing with the travel industry, hotels, airlines, travel agents themselves. We were all shut down. So it was a beautiful recipe to test something like this out. People's emotions. People were scared. People were fearful for their jobs, for their livelihoods, for their communities. So it was almost the best scenario to test something like this out. But to your point, you're absolutely right. Not every organization is ready to become transformational, although it's a buzzword and it's a great buzzword. What some people really want to do is just change and just move things along. Are we really, as a major organization, ready to hear people's thoughts and opinions? And you're right, maybe they're not. But what I can say is I'm very thankful that Royal Caribbean was very supportive. All of the individual travel agencies are different companies, if you can understand from that perspective. Thousands of different business units and business understandings, they embrace the journey as well too, because people were struggling and we've never been taught how to do this. So if you give them a mechanism and a tool and give them the freedom to say, try and think new, it might help you and it might not. And that's okay. If your expectation is you're just trying to help facilitate conversations, then you're in the right perspective. Now, going forward, will every corporation embrace this? Absolutely not. You're so right, Tracy. You can see through leadership if they're not really championing or supporting their people. And from my perspective, as the founder and the CEO of Scared So What, I won't give you the model if I don't believe that it's you have the integrity to back it up. I don't care what you pay. You're just not getting it. But if you are open and you're willing to invest in your employees and you want to teach them a new skill set that can possibly transform their lives and your business at the same point, then I'm on board, 100%.
So, for a business and an organization that is, making a decision to do some sort of change, transformational change that requires people to come along, how much of the success of that transformation is going to be based on the individuals using the app versus increasing the skills of the leadership team in order to then drive that change?
Yeah. Well, if you look at existing change processes today, again, the global statistics will tell you that 30% of organizational change is successful. That's after decades of research and facilitations of the global models that are out there. They also confirm that the reason it's not successful is because the individual hasn't been taken along the journey. Now, I take that a step further. With Scared So What, the supervisors haven't been taken on the journey either. And actually, none of us have. As I just said to you earlier and asked you point blank, have any of you been taught how to manage personal change? And I think we all collectively agree, no. So to your point, Tracy, this is a cultural shift. And if I think of what is my purpose in life now, if I can leave behind a legacy that we taught people how to manage personal change for themselves, that is huge. You think of the school bully who has a change situation and doesn't know how to deal with it. They react the only way they know. And if you don't give them a mechanism for dealing with change, then they're not going to change. That bully grows up and gets into business, gets into life, and remains the same bully that they are in leading in transactional leadership styles. I'm hoping we can transform generations and cultures if they learn how to think this through. But Alex, to your point, the supervisors have got to come, this has to be a top-down approach. Supervisors have to learn it, understand the validity behind it, and the benefits behind it. If you want organizational change to be successful, that you're aware, right? Being woke, now that you're aware, the individual has importance to your change success. So therefore, give them the tools and the processes to learn about it, but you must be able to go along the journey because supervisors and leaders must use a coaching practice if you want to be a development society and a development culture. If you want to be transactional, then just stay the way you are. You're not going to grow. You might grow a little bit, but you'll be left behind.
And other than buying your book, obviously, what does one do to get those skills?
It's hard, right? Being the first. So what I've done is, and to Tracy, to your point, this research that we've done in getting this throughout Royal and to all of our travel agents, it was an Excel-based form. So Scared is a quiz. And it started out with 30 questions in an Excel-based. And we asked them in an algorithmic rhythm. We asked the questions over and over different ways so that we could assess what your feelings, your true feelings were towards the change. And it gave you an outcome. And then So What was a template for you to structurally build your strategy plan. We've only just put this into digital. So all the success we had throughout the 5 years of research was from Excel. People taking the Excel data, and they did it on their own. The app just launched the same time as the book just last month. So it's fresh and new. And I've made the app, Alex, free for every individual who can access and to download it. It's free for you to use. Just take it and learn. In the app, you will learn about what is personal change. Then you will have the scared quiz that you can take over and over again and save them. You can see your results. And as you click on your results, it explains what each answer means. And from there, it guides you to build your own so what plan. That's the structure as it is today for individuals. For organizations, you can take it as well too, but I control the gateway. To Tracy's points, you need to speak with me and I will do an assessment with you and your leadership first on if I believe you're ready. Because I'm not going to just give it to a company that wants to just push this through as platitudes. If you don't believe in it, then good luck. There's nothing else out there. So I want to hold them accountable that way. And then I will help them to instill this cultural transformation into their organization. So you do have the book. It's all there. And the book leads you to the app as well too. And actively what I'm doing now is with my development team, we're making a business version as well too, so that it will have a lot more capabilities on reporting, processes, sharing. I want the ability for an employee to be able to take a quiz and share it with their supervisor and then have a real so what discussion. And maybe they can collaboratively build a so what plan as a team. So that's where the app is going to go next for businesses to use and to grow. But somebody has to start, and unfortunately it's me. So this is the birth of something new.
Dr. Grant, I'm going to put the cynic's hat on for a moment, if I may.
Please do.
So I hear all of this. Let's listen to our employees' feelings. It feels very woo-woo. At the end of the scared quiz, do we stand around and sing Kumbaya?
Yeah.
But the empirical part, where you're telling me more than 2 out of 3 change management programs fail. Now you've got my attention. What can I expect by employing this methodology versus just going right into any other change management?
Yeah. What you will see is you're going to see transparency start to happen when you utilize both. And my research proved that you've got to do both pieces together, especially within organizations. For individuals, you can take it and learn the methodology on your own. And that's the way the app has been designed to help you enable and stay enacted so you can continue to learn your journey. But within an organizational, you still need organizational change models to execute change transformation. It has to happen. But if you want more than 30% to be successful, you've got to include the individuals. And that's where all the research guides us. And in doing so, when we built this out here at Royal Caribbean, we also engaged our leaders of change management. And talk about a conflict themselves. They're like, who's this guy in sales school going to tell change management what to do? We've got the ad car. We've got the pro ski. We've got the John Cotter. We know how to do this. We've gone to school. This is our degree. Fortunately, I can say our leaders and directors of those programs were very open. And I said, could you work with me on the data and the real world people to see if there's a merge? I'm forecasting a merge has to happen in order for this to be successful. And they did. And so we embraced it together. And we could see that, as I just shared with you during the pandemic, we had humongous change management processes that had to happen. Restructure, transition, layoffs, all of those pieces had to happen. And when we put Scared So What and the organizational change models together, we saw success in almost every facet. So I would say it brings transparency to your point. If you want to include the individuals, if you want change to be successful, then you need to be a little bit brave and bring people along on the journey.
Matthew Lampy asks, within your model, what does ongoing feedback look like? For example, someone may be all in at the start of a change process, but partway through have hesitation.
Absolutely. And that's a great point, Matthew. Thanks for that. So this is where the responsibility, as I was just talking with Alex, I'm not just going to give this to every company and say, yeah, go ahead and go. This is where the leadership has to be responsible and understand how does the model work and how does the process work. And so if you've got a person, let's say you've initiated a change and they've done the scared quiz and the quiz shows green, favorable, great. You have a conversation with them. You're having a coaching conversation. You still have to do your job as a leader and coach them through that process to make sure, to Adam's point, you say you're on board, Now you've actually got a visual representation to confirm that your feelings are visual. How do you continue to feel? Can we move forward on your so what plan? And where you hold them accountable so that it doesn't filter out is that so what plan. So if I'm a supervisor, I would go, Rob, show me your so what plan to this. All right, this is your strategy. These are your options. Great. You've got a good way forward. Have you thought about this? Could you include this into your strategy? What will you use for your milestones to take ownership? So again, the way the tool works is it ties you into the individual you're working for on a critical reflection journey versus just assumption. So that way I can hold you accountable and I can help you to be accountable yourself. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. So you brought this to us in the context of transforming sales management.
Yeah.
There's nothing specific to sales about this, is there?
You're right. And that's where it's evolved. So I am a director of sales transformation and a doctor in this field. And it has started, this was all born in sales because what we wanted to find out was salespeople experience constant bouts of change. And as leaders before me even go to school, I never thought about that as a leader. I just was a transactional leader. And I said, my sales teams are supposed to do this. This is your quota. This is your KPIs. These are your targets. Go ahead and hit it. And this is what you're supposed to go do. But you don't reflect as a leader on the change that happens to a salesperson. That salesperson is caught in between two worlds. You've got the organization that they represent, the revenue management teams, the marketing teams, the KPIs that come at them. So it's all coming one direction. But then you also have the B2B customers that are coming the other direction. What happens when the agent is ghosted? What happens when they can't get responses? What happens when the deal falls through? What happens when the negotiation structure falls through? What happens when the finance falls through? So you've got a salesperson representing two entities, not just one. And that is a constant ping pong of change. And you bet it's personal because those people's livelihoods are on the line. Their bonuses, their structures, everything to pay to take care of their families. And as supervisors, we don't really think about that. And that's where this master's program really woke us up and said, if you're going to lead sales, and if you want to transition and transform sales, you've got to learn this skill set and you've got to be able to apply it at your work and your methodology.
Shouldn't this be something that is on the radar of the change management companies? Because often leaders want to buy a package of change, don't they? I'm going to go to one of the big four, or I'm going to go to a sales transformation consultancy, and I'm going to get them to change how people sell or the organization to change. Yeah. And the leader, I mean, I guess the bigger the organization, the more the leader is detached from the people on the coalface. So isn't this something that the transformation business should be embracing and saying, okay, well, if you want to succeed, it's not just about the processes and the policies and the KPIs and the objectives that we put in, but it's also about how do we take people and get them to walk in that direction without us constantly shepherding them and pushing them.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And the answer is yes, they should be. This should be taught in MBAs, masters, leadership programs, leadership development programs, consultancies, and yes, by the change management gurus themselves. It is brand new. It is barely just 6 years old from the start of the program. And it's how do we package that up and get it out? That's my next job as a leader of Scared So What, is to get it out to the world. And it's interesting from the change management perspective. I've been on a couple of webinars with Teresa Moulton, who is the chief editor of the Change Management Review. And to me, she's just right up there. She's phenomenal at leading global change consulting, change leadership, change coaching, all of those programs. And she has a humongous following. And I was on her shows and she said, Grant, we have never thought about this. We've never thought about personal change. We've just accepted that organizational change has been the impetus to drive things forward. But then what about the individual and their ability to accept or reject change? She says, what I think you are doing is you're awakening a sleeping giant. And she champions, she's like, this has got to be a movement. So it's, as I said earlier, it's kind of unfortunate to be the first, but it is fortunate to be the first. And I hope that this eventually does become part of leadership programs, coaching programs, change management consultancy, human resources. It surely should become part of leadership. And actually, if I want to be honest with you, it should go to universities and schools. Children, young people. Again, we had travel agents giving this to their family members, and children as young as 14 were utilizing it, saying, Mom, Dad, this is my so what plan. And it floored me. Yes, this was born in sales. I had no idea that it would be expensive to just about anybody and everybody. But yet we all have a common thing tied to us, change. And we all will experience it every day of our lives. So you're witnessing it kind of at its birth.
How large of a scope must the change be to implement this? For example, going back to the sales department, new fiscal year, new quotas. Wait, let's take a moment and examine scared so what. How do you feel about the change in quota or the change in coffee vendor in the break room? I'm exaggerating, but you understand.
But you're not, and honestly, it's true. Change is personal and it's relevant to each individual. And if I learned so much about change. Did you realize that there's an actual clinical diagnosis for the fear of change? Does anybody know what it is? Ever heard of it? Metathesiophobia. So it's real.
What was it again, Grant? Sorry.
Metathesiophobia.
Right.
So it's a clinical diagnosis of people who have a compulsive fear of change, any change. And it was shocking to learn that in each and every one of us, we have you will hear people say, oh, why do people reject change so much? And it's not about that they reject it. They don't know how to think about it. And we haven't taught them how to think about it. And if we actually could give this methodology and people learned it as a skill set, what kind of generation would we be then? So it really can be any type of change, Rob. It could be as simple as, oh my gosh, I'm getting a new house. What am I going to do? All right, breathe. I can panic about it. Or it could be as something as in my sales job, as we rightfully see, my client's ghosting me. What am I supposed to do? All right. Are you surprised? Well, what do you mean, am I surprised? Are you surprised by what's happening? Well, yeah, they're ghosting me. Okay. Are you conflicted about that? Yeah, I don't like that. All right. So what actions? What are you going to do? Okay. So my client's ghosting me. What could I do? All right. Well, maybe I could ask their supervisor or ask a friend to find out what's going on. Right. Now actions are happening. Now you're slowing down. That's what scared does. Instead of, what do I do? It allows you to pause and think. It could be for the, it's funny you mentioned the coffee vendor. What if it's the person in procurement who's saying, oh my God, they just raised the price on coffee. What am I going to do? That becomes a personal change for that person. That's pretty critical if they're going to keep their jobs going. But it really, in all candor, it's up to the individual and what's important to them.
You reminded me of an old mantra I was once taught. Where I am is where I am.
Yeah.
But where I want to go is up to me.
That's true.
And if I'm hearing you correctly, you're suggesting that we recognize something is going to be different. We pause and we intentionally act on that going forward.
Yeah.
And yours is a prescriptive methodology to help us model through that. Is that correct?
Correct. Prescriptive, it's not meant to be prescriptive. Something I learned from Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I don't know if you know her. She's unfortunately no longer with us in the world, but she is the first and foremost creator of the change curve, which is on death and dying. She's very, very famous for her research to helping people understand about that process of what they're going through. Her work has been constantly accredited to the SARA curve or the SARA model, which is shock, anger, resistance, acceptance. That is commonly found in business, and even it was taught in the university. I actually interviewed her son, who is the president and founder of her foundation, and he said, you know what, Grant? That's not what my mom wrote, and that's not what my mom meant in her model. Somewhere in business, people have adapted that. He goes, but what you're trying to do, and what I see what you're trying to do, is you're trying to teach people how to have a conversation with themselves first. It's not linear. Our minds are not linear. We're scattered in the way we think. We go back and forth. We go up with positive energy, down with negative energy. We're all over the place. That's what Scared is designed to do, is to give you a framework. You bounce around within it. But if you do, hopefully you will come out with an informed decision versus an assumptive one. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There you go.
I know we have just about 5 minutes left. So, Dr. Grant, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to first put the QR code for the app. Anyone that's interested in the app can download that. And second, I'm going to ask you to, yes, thank you, Tim.
Shameless plug, Tim. Thank you. Woohoo!
Second, I'm going to ask you to help us wrap up the thoughts here. What would you like people that have been viewing to walk away with, to think about, and also how can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. And thank you all. Thanks to each and every one of you for allowing us to have the voice to be here today to share this. I really truly think that we're on a movement to help the world transform their thinking. And as this was born in sales, and I realized that probably the most of our customers and listeners here are from sales, I implore you to learn this methodology. If you can learn to embrace true transformation for people, and you want to change your business practice, then you need to include the individuals along the journey. And as Tracy rightfully said, this can't be fake. And people will know instantly if you don't support this. This is not a process you want to be playing with to see if you can add something to your teams. You have to want to change your practice and develop your team members along the way. So this applies to anybody and everybody. The app is free for individuals for use. If you want it within your organization, reach out to me, let me know. If you just go to scaredsowhat.com, all of my information is there. You can even get the book, my new book, Transforming Sales Management, at a 20% discount when you buy it there. There's a code for you. And you can also stay in touch with me. I'm here to support you on the journey. And what I want to do is to get this out to the world so that we can transform the way we work, the way we live, and of course, the way we sell.
Awesome. And I can tell in real time, we've already got people scanning the QR code. So excellent.
Very good.
Anyone with some final thoughts, some questions, anything that they wanted to address regarding this before we wrap up the show?
There was something that just came up for me more in terms of an example so when I came back from maternity leave, pretty much everything with my department was different. In Canada, we get a year, so that can happen. And not once did anybody ask me how I felt about it. I was just supposed to come back in and like do what I had always done with different people in different roles. And I was like, I just wanted to emphasize that, Dr. Grant, because you had said like, we don't notice that. And I think one of the powerful pieces of the conversation is that we can start to notice. We can start and ask those questions and just say like, do we think there might be something different? Maybe it's one person coming back into a thing, or someone's had a personal loss. And these types of things change who we are as people. And I just think it's a really good self-awareness practice as well from a leadership perspective to just start asking those questions. And a great place to start is asking yourself. What would that feel like for you?
Yeah, I so agree with you, because you know what? If your feelings are important, well, guess what? Your employees' feelings are important as well, too. And if somebody's been gone for a year, I hope you would walk through and actually make an appointment or make an attempt to say hi to them and see what they need. But you're so right. Gone are the days of the old machismo thoughts that, we can't talk about feelings. That's not where we live today. Again, living in a democracy, it's all about emotions. People want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want to talk. And the sooner we and leaders as business embrace that, the better our companies are going to be.
On that note, thank you all for those that wanted to be seen, wanted to be heard. Thank you to the guests, to the audience for contributing. Dr. Grant, thank you so much for your contribution today. An awesome discussion. If you enjoyed the day, if you have something to say, if you want to be a part of the digital download, we are always looking for new guests with brilliant perspectives like Dr. Grant. We have a QR code on screen here where you can find the Be Our Guest form on our website. Thank you again, Dr. Grant. We've again run out of time, so we've been cut off, but I wanted to thank all of the panelists, again, the audience, and most especially you, Dr. Grant. It's been an amazing edition of the Digital Download.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Team,
you.